Reverend Sylvia,
Yeah.
I am so honored to be here with you today as we celebrate you and your 30 years as Senior Minister of Unity of Washington, D.C. 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And some in our Unity family were with you when you became Senior Minister 30 years ago. Others, like me, followed a few years later. And then there are some who joined the family in recent years, and they may not know your early story. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself in the early years, where you were born, your family, although we know your sweet mother, Mrs. Adams, but your family and who influenced you in those early years?
Well, I always like to say from the pulpit, you've heard me say, I'm a girl from Brooklyn. I'm just a girl from Brooklyn. So I was born and raised in Brooklyn. Of course, my family, my immediate family, my mother's side, they were from Virginia, and my father's people were actually from Sumter, South Carolina. But I grew up in New York City and had a wonderful childhood. I was very close to my grandmother and the matriarch of our family. And my grandmother had such an impact on me. She was a very spiritual person. And there was something, I was her only granddaughter. I have two brothers, one who's 13 years older and one who's 13 years younger. But when I was coming up as a child, it was just my oldest brother and I. And I was very close to my grandmother, and I watched her. And she always had a candle burning. She had her Bibles, and I knew that if she put your name in the Bible, her Bible, that meant something. But I don't know, I feel that she passed this mantle on to me. She was a praying woman, and when my grandmother prayed, stuff moved, things happened, you know? And I was always just very impressed with that, and she was a sort of a silent guide for me, you know? And I always say she probably put that mark upon me early on. And so when I was young, I went to New Lot's Dutch Reform School and church, and it was a non-denominational church, but I always loved it. And I loved, from an early on, I loved scripture. I loved just being very positive. And when I was 18 years old, I read a book by Norman Vincent Peale called The Power of Positive Thinking. And that book changed my whole entire life because it gave me a mindset that you could combine spirituality or religion, if you want to use that, and the power of psychology in the mind. And that fascinated me. And I loved that positive approach. And from there on, that had been my path. And I was 18, but I would give that book as a gift to everybody who I could think of, because it truly drew me to something, I think, a higher way of being and living. And of course, it wasn't maybe 20 years after that, or maybe 10 years after that, that I discovered Unity, which is a positive path to life and spirituality. And it combined spirituality along with psychology and the power of the mind. And so that book started me on my journey, and it led me to the Unity movement.
Yeah. And so when did you learn about Unity Village and you started learning, studying Unity principles?
So when I graduated in college, I probably am going to date myself a little bit, but it was the era of, you know, I'm okay, you're okay, personal psychology, and transcendental meditation. The Beatles had brought meditation along. And so I was fascinated with this concept of meditating. And so I began to meditate. And I ran across a woman who was I didn't know it at the time, but she was a religious science practitioner. And she also practiced reflexology. And so when you would go to her and she'd be working on your feet, she would do this wonderful teaching. And again, it was something that felt familiar to my soul. I didn't know all the jargon, but I knew that this is a thinking, this is a path, this is a way of being that I am drawn to, and I loved it. And so she said to me one day, you should go hear this gentleman named Eric Butterworth. Now, Eric Butterworth is one of Unity's outstanding, legendary ministers, and he happened to be the minister of Unity of New York. And their center was on, I think, 51st, and I worked on 50th. So I said, fine, this is a place for me to go. And so I checked. If Edith told me to go check him out, I was going to check him out. And of course, the moment I walked into that Unity Center, it was like what everybody says, it was like coming home. I said, this is for me. This is my path.
It's so funny you say that, because I've told you this story before. The first time I walked into Unity of Washington, D.C. on A Street,
Yeah.
at the time I knew nothing about Unity. I knew nothing about Unity principles. But at the end of the service, I remember saying to my friend, this is where I belong. And I remember being very touched by the short meditation and prayer that we had during that service. Yeah. And, 20-some years later, I'm still with the family.
Exactly.
Let's shift a little bit to, and I know when you became senior minister at Unity of Washington, D.C. on A Street.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful, quaint, sacred
space.
Place. And I know
yes.
you have fond memories there. Could you share one or two of your fond memories of our A Street location?
Well, it was such, as you say, a beautiful, quaint place. Now, I didn't always have that. When I first came to try out, and it had a lot of beautiful wood, natural wood, but the downstairs basement
was tight.
It was small, but it didn't have a ceiling. They didn't have ceiling tiles, so all the piping was exposed. The bathrooms were, and I have a thing about making sure that the bathrooms look lovely and pleasant. Well, the bathrooms were horrendous. And I thought, oh God, you don't mean for me to come here. This is not the place. And the men's room used to be outside. They didn't even have the men's room inside of the church. They had to go outside.
I'm glad I don't remember that.
Yeah. But I said, oh, this is terrible. Why would they have to go outside in the wintertime? And so one of the first things that I did, I said, the beautification of where we worship, it is a sacred place and a sacred space. And we should make sure that we are bringing honor. So one of the first things I did was I put in a drop ceiling. I had the bathrooms changed. I had to give up some of the space in the women's bathroom so that we could bring the men's bathroom inside. And, so I love that because it told me that where we are worshiping should be a reflection. Again, it's consciousness. And we had the consciousness to make sure that the place was beautiful. So that was one of the things that I love. It was small. The kids, downstairs was Sunday school. My office was downstairs, but so was the Sunday school. And we had fellowship in the same room. So every Sunday, the kids would be there.
The
bookstore. And then when it was time to end the service, the kids had to pack up, and then the people from hospitality had to get stuff, and we'd come down. But it was quaint. It was close. I loved that it was in the round, semi-round, so that you could see, your fellow congregant, and it had a warm, wonderful feeling. And one of the fears that a lot of people had is that we would lose our sense of family and connectedness when we moved here. But I used to stress that connectedness it's consciousness. We will take that with us. It's not just the physical place. It is the energy of our hearts, the energy that we bring. And if we want to remain a family, we will.
We were all so excited during that time when we moved from, as much as we loved A Street,
yes,
we moved to 1225 R Street Northwest. Can you share with us what was the driving force behind making the move from A Street to R?
Well, basically, it was practical because we were growing. When I took over the leadership of the church, we had about 150 people. And as we began to grow in that space, we literally were bursting out at the seams. And it was clear to the Board of Trustees at that time that if we're going to unfold and continue to grow, we need a larger space. Plus, it was just, we wanted space for the children so that they could have their own space and not have to be moved about every time we wanted to do something. We wanted to be able to have classes. There was only one small fellowship area, so everything happened in that area. And again, it limited our ability to grow and to make sure that we could have 2 classes going on at the same time, or we could have other functions. So it was practical that we needed the move was practical, that we needed a larger space. And so we began, and it was a 12-year journey. It was but miracles happened during that time. I mean, I remember when we were trying to raise the money for the down payment of this, to purchase this church. And I remember we needed $50,000 to add to something. And I'm very big on consciousness. It's very important to me, holding a certain consciousness as a community. And so we had an affirmation. I had the whole church, affirming. And I will never forget that we needed a little bit more money because you had to have a certain amount of money to have down payment. And I will never forget, we were praying, and this was one Sunday, and a woman came up. And I guess she'd come into some money, and she handed me a check for $50,000 that we needed. I mean, that was just one of them. There were so many wonderful, people call them miracles. I call them demonstrations, outpicturings of a faith held, of a truth held, of a vision held. And so we, as a community, held this vision. We had banners, we said, God's opportunity, our choice. I love that banner because it was God is always giving us opportunity, but we must choose to move into it, to accept it, to step into it. And I tell you, I am just so proud of the people because it took us a minute, but we were able to raise what we needed, to have the down payment. We actually were able to put $2 million as a down payment through investment. I'm also, I'm a good steward of the money. I believe I have a good, we call that having a prosperity consciousness. And it may have taken a while, and we had a couple of capital campaigns, but all that was fun because the community came together, the people came together, and we could see the vision, and we could see the purpose. And, when you have a vision, that vision pulls you towards it. And it energizes you. So we were energized as a spiritual community to get into this place, this promised land, this new, wonderful, sacred space. And like I said, it was a 12-year journey, but we were diligent and we band together and we made it happen.
But 30 years for you as senior minister, how does that sound? How does that make you feel? And did you think you would be in that position, senior minister, for 30 years? Or did you not give that?
I didn't say how long, but here's the thing. Everything that I ever did with this church, I consulted the spirit of my being, God. And my being here felt God ordained in terms of coming to this ministry. And when we experienced that split, I remember asking, what do I need to do now, Lord? And I clearly heard, and I've never veered from it, was you are to build spiritual consciousness and spiritual community. And that became the vision and the driving force. And then I said, I could feel Spirit saying that 12 years of getting us here, that we needed to get here and that we needed to thrive. You see, it's one thing to arrive in the promised land, but you want to be able to thrive in the promised land. If it's a land of milk and honey, you want to be able to feast on that. And so I knew that my work would not be done until we got here and we could thrive in this place. And I think that we have done that.
What do you see as the greatest impact that unity teachings can have on the world today during these challenging times?
Yeah, you know, that we really have the ability to have an impact in life and to change not only our own lives, but to change the lives of those around us. And that if we recognize that there's enough for everybody, that, this whole sense of separation, that we really are connected, if we could begin to really love each other and to recognize that I am my brother's keeper, I am my brother, I am my sister, that we are one, and that God is enough. God is enough for everything. I think that we would have less commotion. But the main teaching is, for me, is that if people understood that they are divine, that they are spiritual beings, not mere human beings. Yes, we have this dimension of our humanities and our flaws and our faults, but man, we are also imbued and endowed with presence and power to create and to express, that which is of God, the good. We can create good. We can shift our world. That's a powerful teaching.
So, big question. What's next for Reverend Sylvia?
I am holding that question for myself. As I said, I know that it's time, because this whole concept of moving out into a global arena. So whatever it is that I can do to serve, and I'm not sure it's always going to be here at Unity of Washington, D.C., because the world is now available. That's what the pandemic's shown us, that the world is available. And I want to see how I can impact my world and therefore impact the world. And so I'm in the process of really looking at what is there a new assignment? What am I hearing Spirit say? And I am hearing Spirit speak to me. It's not all flushed out, but this is what I know. I trust that whatever it is, it'll be God inspired, God ordained, and God blessed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to share with us that maybe we haven't talked about today?
No, that it's just, it's been an honor for me.
It's been my honor.
It's been an honor to be here. It's been an honor to share that these 30 years, I've given it my heart, my soul, my consciousness, my love, and everything that I have. And so, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. And so whatever the next level is, it'll be great. But I'm thankful for the people. One thing I love, the people in this congregation are just wonderful and outstanding and beautiful. And so I love them. And, I just know that I have work to do still. And we'll see what the future holds. I still know that I want to go to the party and, dance and have a good time and do my thing. And wherever that is, as long as I follow, my heart and follow the path of God, I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
And to our viewing audience, if you want to hear more from Reverend Sylvia, please tune into our YouTube channel on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you to the Richard Payne Trio. And welcome, welcome, beloved ones. Yes, let's give them some love, some love. This is such an auspicious time and a wonderful occasion this evening. I hope that you're all home and you're comfortable getting ready for what lies ahead in this precious, precious time. So let's begin our service and have our musical inspiration with our beloved and wonderful Miss Celeste Crenshaw. Let's give her some love and light.
Hi, everybody. Happy almost New Year. Okay. We're a winner, and never let anybody say that you can't make it because of what stands in your way. No more tears do you cry, and we finally dried our eyes, and we're moving on up, moving on up. Lord have mercy, we're moving on up, moving on up. We're living proof the Spirit works, and we come from that good black earth, and we're a winner. And everybody knows it's true. Keep on pushing, like we know we all must do. At last that blessed day has come. Don't where you come from. We're all moving on up, moving on up. Lord have mercy, we're moving on up, moving on up. Hey, hey, we're moving on up, moving on up. Lord have mercy, we're moving on up, moving on up. And after we depart from here, we'll show the world we have no fear, 'cause we're a winner. And everybody knows it's true. We just keep on pushing, like we all know we must do. And that blessed day will come. We don't care where you come from. We're gonna move on up, moving on up. Lord have mercy, we're moving on up, moving on up. Gotta keep on pushing. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, moving on up, moving on up, moving on up. We gotta keep on pushing. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, we're just moving on up, moving on up, moving on up. We're a winner. Don't let nobody tell you different. Oh, yeah. I'll say we're a winner. Oh, yeah, yeah. And just keep on pushing. Yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. Moving on up. I love that, Celeste. Yes. We are elevating, we are evolving, and we're moving on up to a higher state of consciousness. Yes, indeedy. And to do what we always do in a form of our tradition, let's have our responsive reading. And I have my beloved assistant, Reverend Cheryl McCullough, to help me with this process. And it says, if anyone is in Christ, he or she is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come.
I am not bound by the past. I am made new in Christ.
This is a new day.
Through the power of the Christ in me, I see myself in new light.
This is the dawning of a new century.
Through the power of the Christ in me, I see my strengths. I count my blessings.
Oh, beloved ones, this is the dawning of a new millennium.
Through the power of the Christ in me, I release the old I behold the new.
God has placed within us all that we need for full and joyous lives.
Through the power of the Christ in me, I accept my divine inheritance.
And he sat upon the throne and said, "Behold, I make all things new."
This is a new day. Through the power of the Christ in me, I begin anew.
Yes. Thank you, Reverend Cheryl. And so it is. This is the dawning of a new day. Well, beloved ones, it's almost that time. The time of transition from one year into another. And I was just thinking, even though we are here this evening celebrating this time of transition, of moving from one year into another, one period of time into a new period of time. But if you think about it, we're always in a state of transition, right? We're always moving from one moment into a new moment, into another moment. Even as I speak, moment by moment by moment, I'm in transition. There's always that flow because nothing is static in the universe. Nothing is static in the universe. Things are always in transition. In transition. I guess that's what evolution is all about. It is moving from this into a perpetual transition. Right? A state of perpetual transition is evolution, or this perpetual state of change, a process of evolution, a constant unfolding, right? From moment to moment. And yet, even with this knowledge that we're always changing and always moving, somehow or another, we find ourselves resisting the process. Have you ever found yourself resisting the process of change, of transformation, of transition? You see, we are creatures of habit. We like the familiar, right? We like to do and have those things that we know because they bring us a sense of comfort on some level. So we like things that are familiar, and Lord knows we like our creature comforts. We like to, make sure that we have those things that are known that sort of soothes the soul. Like good food, or some good snacks, a warm blanket maybe, or something hot to drink, something soft and luxurious, something that feels comfortable to the body and brings comfort to our minds and our consciousness. Which is why I think a lot of people during this pandemic gained a lot of weight. Because they were used to what the creature, they wanted those things that made them feel comfortable, those things that were familiar. And so they began to eat comfort food or eat out of comfort. And what we were trying to do during that time of the pandemic, which we're still in, but it was trying to comfort ourselves while we were waiting for things to get back to normal. So while we were feeling uncomfortable, we thought we would do those things that would bring us comfort while we are waiting to get back to normal, or at least waiting to get to the new normal, or getting used to this new normal, or the next normal as people are talking about. But newsflash, there is no normal. There is no normal. And we like to think, oh yes, this is what I do and I've always done it this way. But there is no normal because everything, as I've said, is always in transition. Change is always happening. Moment to moment, we are changing. The Bible says, in a twinkling of an eye, we can all be changed. And as we know, everything is moving and changing. And so sometimes, even though moment by moment we ourselves are changing, sometimes the changes are so subtle that we don't even know it. We don't notice that we have changed. And you can tell that by looking in the mirror. When I look in the mirror, I go, oh my Lord, when did all this happen? Right? What? I got I've noticed now my eyebrows got some gray on it. When did that happen? Right? Subtle changes so that we become unaware of them and we fool ourselves into thinking, well, nothing has changed. But every moment we are changing. Things are always in transition, and there's nothing that is static or new. It says everything is the same, nothing that's static, but everything is unfolding day by day, moment by moment. But you know what? There's something afoot, something that's happening, that we're changing even as a species, even as a people, and we're not recognizing it, but we are. I was looking at YouTube, and there's this woman who comes on, and she is showing pictures of newborn babies or very young babies. And she has this tagline that she says, if you don't have a pandemic baby, you can't sit next to me. Now, I don't know what all that means, but she's talking about these pandemic babies that were born. And she shows them, and people, I guess, must be sending them to her. But, it's actually astonishing because she'll show a week-old baby that was born and on the planet for a week. Head is raised up, eyes are wide open, looking around like, hey, what y'all doing? Right? Or she'll show a baby that's maybe 2 or 3 months old that is turning over by itself, on its own, where when in my generation, babies didn't start to turn over till they were 5 months old or so, right? Till they can get 2 months old, babies rolling up. They're like, you better watch. You used to be able to put the baby on the bed and, go do some things because the baby wasn't going anywhere. Nowadays, you cannot do that. These pandemic babies are different. Or she'll show a baby that's 5 or 6 months old, and guess what? Walking. And so they're fascinated because she says, these pandemic babies are different. They are coming in with different energies and different capacities. You lifting heads at 1 week, holding the head up by itself, that's something new, okay? That is a new being. And so I'm looking at all of this change that's happening, and it's subtle. And it's probably been happening for a while. The food that we're eating, we're stronger bodies, so the babies are coming out, able to do things that years ago they were not. We are shifting and changing even as a species, even as a people. But we may not even recognize that there is change afoot. And I believe that we are living life now at what I call warp speed. We are living life at warp speed because things are changing so fast that there really isn't any time to settle into a routine, right? There really isn't time to develop, well, this is my new normal. This is my new habit, my new thing that I do, because, or doing things the way you always did, because there's no time for you to settle. Have you been feeling unsettled a bit? I know a lot of people saying, I'm unsettled. You know why? Because things are changing, and we're figuring out what is going on. How am I trying to, the moment you get used to one thing, something new has come up. And so there's no settling in. There's a new way of being. We don't have time to even do things the way we used to do them. Maybe even yesterday. You might have done it this way yesterday, but today, as our responsive reading said, guess what? It's a new day. It's a new day. There's no time any longer to get comfortable. There's no time any longer to settle into your routine when you might want to do something that you call, okay, this is my new normal. No time for that. And here's what I'm thinking. You know, I call you all light bearers, right? We're all light bearers. And this is what Spirit said, that we are in a moment in time where we, even as light bearers, we're going to have to get used to moving at the speed of light. We say we're light bearers, right? But now we're being called to step it up. You said we're moving on up? Is that what you just saying? We're moving on up. The Spirit is saying, time for you light bearers even to step it on up. You're going to have to move with the speed of light, meaning things are moving and changing and happening fast. And as a light bearer, a bringer of truth, a bringer of that Spirit of God, you've got to increase your ability to move and to be, right? No more time for just languishing in, this time of rest. Transition is upon us. Transformation is upon us. And we have to be able to be so fluid that we can handle whatever comes up. Whatever is up, we handle it. Whatever is next, we accomplish it. We do it. There is no more time to linger in the past. There is no more time to linger in how we used to be and used to it. As I was driving, I was asking somebody, we are going into our 3rd year. I can't really believe that. It's 2 years, but this is March 20th, and then we had 20. We are entering into the 3rd year. And so we've been unsettled because it's like, wait a minute, we've been waiting. When are we going to get back? When are we going to get back to what we know? When are we going to get back to life as we know it? Listen, there's no going back. We're moving on up, as Celeste just sang, and we're moving forward. We are evolving, and things are changing at the speed of light. But we are light bearers, which means we are now amping ourselves up to be ready to handle the changes. Everything is in transition. Everything. We're not lingering in the past, and we're not hungering for the future. We're learning to be present in the now. Whatever is up, that is yours to do. Whatever is next, that is what you handle. And so really it keeps us, if we don't get too far into the past or trying to hold on to the past or too far in the future, we'll be okay because we're now learning to do what? Be in the now moment. This is the new way of being in the now moment, because everything is in transition. Everything is in transition. Even our dreams and our desires. People are reassessing what they have been doing in the past and how they've been, and they're creating new. People are leaving jobs, changing, and thinking, well, you know what? It's time for me to do what I really want to do. Things are changing. People are doing a reset. That's what this pandemic is giving us, an opportunity to reassess. And the universe is pushing us forward to live in this now moment, to live in this now moment with such openness. It's teaching us to be less resistant to change because everything is changed. And it's constantly, and now we're just taking the time to see it. It's forced us to see, wow, things are changed, and to be less resistant. So the question that I want to ask you is, what you're going to be doing in 2022. What you're doing in 2022. And then Paula just gave me, because it's up to you. What you're doing in 2022, what you're going to be doing, folks, in 2022, because it's up to you. Now, I know I just said to you that everything is changing, and that it's changing at warp speed, and that we shouldn't get comfortable with making sure that we understand that we want to live it how we used to do it and how we think we were going to do it. But just because things are changing at warp speed doesn't mean that we shouldn't have visions and dreams and intentions and hopes and desires. All of those things are essential and they're necessary. But what it does mean, beloved ones, is that we shouldn't get attached to the way we think it should be. Doesn't mean you don't have intentions or desires. But when we have our vision and we start mapping it out, well, I think it's going to show, I want it to show up this way, this way, this way, and this way. The universe is changing moment by moment by moment. And it doesn't mean your dream may not manifest, but it may not manifest this way, and this way, and this way. It might be something different, something new, something you hadn't seen or you hadn't thought of. But I'll tell you this, as you understand that you have that vision, you have your intentions, you have your desires, it's all a possibility. 2022, who knows? It's up to you. We don't know. But we hold it open. But as we're holding it open, we must also then be willing to allow the things to come to us in the divine right time and in the divine right way, I should say, and at the divine right time. That's the new, in the divine right way and at the divine right time. That's how things are unfolding, because when we aren't open to divine timing and the divine way that things are manifesting, then we begin to get all up in the way. I want it to be this way. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a vision. You just have to hold it in a certain consciousness that allows it to morph and change and grow. Because sometimes my vision is limited than what the universe might have for me. Right? We used to pray this or something better. Because I don't know the better. I don't know the extent of the goodness. I may have a narrow vision, I have a desire, and I have a want, but God may have something bigger and better that I don't know. So I want to hold my vision, hold my intentions, hold my desires, but in a way that allows it to morph and change into that which is the best and highest for me, or the best and highest and the good of all concerned. Things are changing. And so we've got to rely upon this present, because things are moving now at warp speed, and we don't even have time to get in our own way, because by the time you figure to get in your way, it's changed again. That means we have to start to learn how to really rely upon the divine and to trust the process and trust the presence. You know, we used to have the saying years ago, well, God's in charge. Well, guess what? You're going to have to really live to that truth at this point. The universe is letting us know God is in charge. God is in charge. And so as we begin to really live this truth, that means we allow ourselves to be open. We allow the goodness, the God, the vision of whatever is highest and best for us to come forth to us and through us. That means that we're living at warp speed and we're functioning at warp speed, but that's going to require that we begin to adjust and adapt, right? And to actually functioning at a higher level. We can no longer function the way we have functioned in the past. Like these new babies, you know, you can no longer leave your 2-month baby alone on the bed because it has a capacity to roll over, where you used to be able to leave your 5-month-old baby on the bed before it rolled over. So things are changing, and the foundation is changing of who we are as a people and a species. So what are some of the things and the qualities of being that we're going to need to develop if we're going to be living at warp speed, light speed? We're going to be functioning at this level. And I'm thinking one of the first qualities that we're going to have if we're going to move into this third year, this third time of the pandemic or life itself, is I think we're going to have to start with the quality of flexibility. Flexibility. That is, we're going to have to be flexible. We're going to have to be fluid, because things are fluid. You know, well, this is not the way. Well, you know what? Everything is changing. When we come in here to prepare, it might change. We might have our script written out, but something happens and it causes us to change the script. We have to be fluid, right? Flexible. We've got to be fluid. The ability to go, when you're fluid, you go with the flow. You're going to have to learn how to really go with the flow. Because I tell you what, if you are not flexible, if you can't be fluid, if you can't be willing to go with the flow as things evolve and unfold and change, then you are going to suffer. You're going to suffer because what will happen is you'll begin to resist the transformation, resist the change. And anytime we resist something, we suffer. Why does it have to be like this? I want it to, well, it is what it is. And if we can't accept what it is, we suffer. If you want to live the way it used to be, you're going to suffer. If you want to have it the way I'm used to doing it this way, you're going to suffer. Flexible, fluid, and going with the flow is so important. And what will enable you to be flexible, to be fluid, and to go with the flow? You're going to have to amp your faith factor. You're going to have to increase your faith in the divine, your faith in God. You're going to have to, as I said a couple of Sundays ago, not only trust the process, but you're going to have to trust the presence. This is where we're going in the new age. We've got to begin to trust the process, but to trust the presence. You might not know where things are going, but the divine knows. And so you've got to be fluid to move with that. That means you've got to have faith that the direction you're being guided in, the things that you're given, they are divinely, that what I call divinely downloaded. So you've got to amp up your faith, and you've got to be and trust the process and the presence. Why? Because it may not always be clear. The path that you're supposed to go may not always be clear to you or as clear as you would like. Some things you see, we like to be able to know. If I know exactly what's going to happen, then I feel comfortable. Remember, we like to be comforted, right? Well, I'm comfortable when I know where I'm supposed to go. When God has laid it all out, then I'm comfortable. But this is a new day and a new era, and you may not be able to see what is happening down the road. You may not be able to see until that divinely right moment, that divine right time, right? You have to trust the process as things are unfolding. And you might have to be uncomfortable not knowing, uncomfortable and flexible and willing to wait and see how it moves as you begin to work with the Spirit. Because in the meantime, friends, while you're waiting and allowing and having faith and trusting, you know that at some point, whatever is next will reveal itself and it will show up in your life. You just may not be able to see it. But what you'll have to trust is that life is in process, and so is the presence. There's a story in the scripture that I love, and it's found in Mark 8:22. And Jesus has just performed some miracles, and he's now he's in Bethesda, or Bethsaida, as they like to say. And so it says, when they arrived at Bethsaida, I like to say, some people brought a blind man to Jesus, and they begged him to touch the man and heal him. Jesus took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village, right? Away from the maddening crowd. We're having an opportunity to be away from the crowds for healing and wholeness, right? So he took him, and it says he led him out of the village. Then, spitting on the man's eyes, he laid his hands on him and asked, "Can you see anything now?" The man looked around. "Yes," he said, "I see people, but I can't see them very clearly. They look like trees walking around." And then Jesus placed his hands on the man's eyes again, and his eyes were opened. His sight was completely restored, and he could see everything clearly. Jesus sent him away, saying, "Don't go back into the village on your way home." Now, there's a lot of things happening in this particular scripture that I think is pertinent to us today. If you notice, Jesus, when he was working with the man, he had to lay his hands upon him how many times on his eyes? Twice, right? He had to do it twice, because the first time it wasn't that it didn't work, but it wasn't quite at the place where it needed to be, his sight. And the man said, "Yeah, I see a little bit, but I can't see clearly." I see people that look like they're trees walking around, and so he goes back and he touches the man's eyes again, and then his eyes are opened, and he's able to see very clearly. And what that says to me is sometimes when we ask for things and when we're praying for things, right, it may take a process before it actually manifests in our lives. Sometimes we think when we're working with truth and truth principles like it's magic, I just say it and poof, it appears. But life is a process, and sometimes the manifestation takes a minute. It takes a different path. And so while Jesus was clear that he could heal him, he had to do it twice. It wasn't quite ready, or maybe the man wasn't quite ready to be healed in that moment, at that first time. So the second time. So sometimes we have to know that life will present us with a process before it becomes made manifest, before we can actually see clearly our way. So it looks like, well, I wanted to go this way, but now Spirit has me going over here, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I want to be, maybe when you get over here, you'll see things differently, and you'll see them clearly. So there's a process that has to take place. And what I think also the message is that in 2022, that we cannot take things on this side of the realm of appearances, right? The man said, it looks, I can see, but not clearly. It looks like men walking around like trees. We're going to be looking out here, and we're going to see things, but we're not seeing it clearly if we're looking just with the human eyes. Looks like men walking around like trees. Looks like confusion. It looks like despair. It looks like all hell is breaking loose on the earth. What in the world is going on? I can't see my way. I can't see clearly, but something else is being asked of you. You're asked to see things from an inner sight. You're having that insight that there's a spiritual awakening, a spiritual revolution that has to take place in your consciousness before. So what we're going to be having to do in 2022 is to rely upon the Spirit, to rely upon our inner sight, our spiritual understanding, so that things will become clearer in due season. In due season. I don't know what will happen in the future. And if I look at things at face value, I can get very depressed. I can say, Lord, I don't know how things are going to be turned around, but that's not for me to know in the moment. I have to trust that the process is working out, and God is moving everything to its highest position and its highest place. Now, the second thing that I think is important in this story that we should understand is that after the man could see, Jesus, it says he sent him on his way, but he told him, don't go back into the village on your way home. Now, remember, before he performed the miracle, he took him what? Out of the village. Because sometimes when you're in your village, people are going to give you the message that you should be doing things the way you always done them. You should be this way and blah, blah, blah. And oh my God, what's happening in the world and all that negative vibration is not good for our healing. And so he took him out of that situation, out of the village, out of what was familiar, and he took him apart and healed him. And then he says, don't go back into the village, that village on your way home. So it's okay for him to go home, but what he's saying is you need to go in a new way, in a new direction. I've given you new sight. So you don't need to try to go back to the same way you've been, to the same village. You go home because every soul wants to get home. Everybody wants to get home. To go home is that familiar, right? We want the home brings us that comfort. It brings us that familiar. But what this message says to me is that there's a new definition of home. There's a new familiar. And the familiar has to be connected to the divine. It's not connected to the old way that we used to be. Your home, your true sense of home must be with God. It must be a higher vision, a higher order of being, a higher sense, not going back to the way things were. We're not going back. We're moving on up and we're changing, we're evolving, and we're not going back to the familiar. We're not going back into the past or to our normal, because there is no normal way of being. We're now new creatures and new creation. Moment by moment by moment, we are changing. New sight, new insights, seeing things differently, seeing things and understanding on a different level as never before. So we're finding a new way home. And what is home? Anytime you are connected to the divine spirit within you, your source of all life, your source of being, your home. Your home. Out here is the village and the village people. But all their stuff. No. Don't go home that way. Don't go back. So we're being really called to something higher. And when we are connected to the divine, then, which is our natural state, really start seeing differently. In order to survive, we're going to have to see things differently. This is a new day, it's a new era. So in addition to being flexible, to being fluid, to being flowing and faithful, we also have to be connected consciously and constantly to the divine. That's the call of the universe. As a light bearer, moving now at the speed of light, life-changing, moving fast, we're going to have to be connected in ways that we have not done before. And this is what I'm saying, that not only we have to be connected to the divine, consciously and constantly, which means all the time making the questions here, that in this new order of being, we are receiving what I call downloads. We are receiving dynamic downloads for the new direction we're supposed to be taking. We are each getting that. People are feeding like, wow, I'm not supposed to do this anymore. I think I'm going over here, or I think I'm making this change. People are changing. They're getting downloads, dynamic downloads for a new direction that is to be taken. Life is trying to move in a new direction. It looks chaotic, friends, but don't go by appearances. There's something powerful and divine happening at this point. And it's on the spiritual level. And so sometimes spiritual things have to be what? Spiritually discerned. You won't be able to understand what's happening if you're looking with your human eyes. It's spiritual that's taking place. And so we're going to be consciously connected and ready to receive downloads, right? And because if you're not, this is what will happen. Which is happening to many people. And I watch myself as I try to catch myself. But if we're not connected, if we're not consciously working with this power and this spirit, trying to get home to the divine self, my natural state, what will happen is you will succumb to the COVID fatigue. You will succumb because things are changing and fluctuating so much, and you're unsteady because you're trying to find your grounding. You're trying to find what is your home and what's comfortable out here. But this will never do if you cannot make the inner connections. So you will then all of a sudden feel a sense of things are in flux as opposed to being flexible. Things are changing so much. You'll feel disconnected. You'll feel frustrated. You'll feel purposeless, hopeless. And a lot of people are filled with anxiety at this point in time. And I'm watching myself have these moments where it's like, whoa, where am I going? That's my signal. Oh, you need to get back. You need to get connected, rooted, grounded, right? Because what happens is we want to know that we are being called for a new direction, new sight, right? We're being given a new purpose, a new direction, and a new assignment in life. Light bearers, truth seekers, speakers, all of us healers, we're being given a new direction and a new assignment. So we've got to step up to this new assignment. You know, on TikTok, there's a song, and it has a little profanity in it, but it's a song that says, I understood the assignment. You all heard that one? I don't know, maybe you all haven't heard it. I'm sure some of you out there. So different people are repeating, but I heard I understand the assignment, right? Or I understood the assignment is the phrase. I understood the assignment. And basically, it's like, all this is going on, but I understood the assignment. And the question I want to is, do you understand the assignment? Because we're being given a new one. Do you understand what you're going to do in 2022? And I hope it is to listen more deeply, to connect more deeply so that you can be rooted and grounded and not swayed and turned around and all that. You go with the flow by the flow of what Spirit is giving you to do. I hope you're listening for this new divine direction that is happening moment by moment by moment by moment. You're being called. I'm being called. We're all being called. Those who have ears, Jesus used to say it this way, those who have ears, let them hear, and those who have eyes, let them see. He's talking about a different seeing and a different hearing. That's the new assignment. We can no longer see with this limited vision, but see a new vision. See with spiritual eyes and listen for the new assignment. So what is God asking you to do in 2022, moment by moment? What is God asking you to be? What are you being called to in this moment? What truth is demanding that it be expressed through you in 2022? There's a truth trying to come to and through you in 2022. But as Paul said, it's up to you. But the call is so powerful at this time. It's powerful. A few days ago, I participated in a ceremony. You know, I used to go to India a lot, and so they were having a new spiritual name ceremony for people. And I was given a new spiritual name. And, you know, one's name, as we all know, spiritually means nature. It means nature. And in the Bible, whenever people were being used by God, they got a new name. Abram became who? Abraham. Sarai became Sarah, right? Jacob became Israel. Or was it Israel became Jacob? I think Jacob became Israel. Simon became Peter. Saul became Paul. When God was doing a new work in them, they got a new name, a new nature. God is doing a new work in us. We are receiving a new nature, right? This Christ in us. Don't go home the same way you've done. Something new is being born in you, being given to you. And we are in transition, change. We're moving and evolving. And as we become this new creation, this new species that we are moving, spiritual beings having spiritual experiences, living in a spiritual universe. That's what's happening. No longer just mere human beings, but we're being morphed into Christ-like beings, divine beings, light beings, able to move at the speed of light. Flexible, open. And so as we move and enter into this time of bringing in this new year, through our meditation and our waiting, I want you to see if you can listen, to see if you are given a new name, to see if perhaps there's a new word that Spirit gives to your heart that you might focus on. Or maybe there's a new direction that becomes clear for you. Maybe there's a new assignment for you. I want you to listen for the newness that is happening in this moment and in your life. So we'll do that in a moment as we take the time to meditate and bring this new year in with openness. And we'll have our burning bowl service in a moment. But before we do that, let's begin to open our hearts as we listen to Celeste and the Richard Payne Trio bring us once again some musical inspiration as we prepare for meditation and our burning bowl. Celeste.
Thank you, Reverend Sylvia. Thank you for that wonderful message. I'm just thinking we're getting ready to go to meditation, but right now we're getting ready to party a little bit. Say it's all right. Say it's all right. It's all right. have a good time, 'cause it's alright. Oh, it's alright. Now listen, it's alright. Say it's alright. It's alright. Have a good time, 'cause it's alright. Oh, it's alright. Now listen to the beat and kind of pat your feet, 'cause you've got soul. Everybody knows that it's alright. Oh, it's alright. Now when you wake up early in the morning, feeling sad or not quite in the mood, just hum a little soul, hang on to your goals, 'cause something good is headed for you. Say it's alright. Say it's alright. It's alright. Have a good time, 'cause it's alright. Oh, it's alright. Now everybody clap your hands and give yourself a chance. You got soul. Everybody knows that it's alright. Oh, it's alright. Now when you wake up early in the morning, feeling sad or not quite in the mood, hum a little soul, hang on to your goals, 'cause good is headed right for you. It's alright. Say it's alright. It's alright. Have a good time, 'cause it's alright. Oh, it's alright. Everybody clap your hands and give yourself a chance, 'cause you got soul. Everybody knows that it's alright. Oh, it's all. Clap those hands again and give yourself a chance, 'cause you got soul. Say you got soul. And you got soul. Everybody knows that it's alright. Oh, it's alright.
Amen. Wonderful. Everybody knows. Yes, let's give us some love. Yes, yes, yes. Everybody knows it's going to be all right, folks. It is definitely, truly all right. Well, at this time in our service, I want us to get prepared for this next transition that is happening. And we always participate in a burning bowl service. Now, our burning bowl is an opportunity for us to release all those qualities, to let go of the past, to let go of those things that aren't serving us well any longer, to let go of those things that are holding us back and keep us like Lot's wife wanting to look back, to go back the same way. We want to release all those things, our old past conditioning, all the old triggers and things that were not really for our highest good. And so, hopefully, you've had the instruction that you can take a piece of paper and while you're home, write down those qualities of being that you want to release and you want to burn. Fire is a cleansing, healing, purifying element. And so we take the time during our burning bowl service, and when we come back in person, we might do it this way, or we might allow ourselves to come back and place things in the bowl. But I've written my qualities that I want to release, whether they are fears or doubts or insecurities, whatever they are, they're gone. I'm going to take the moment and light these things, and I'm going to release them. I release this unto God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. For my heart, this is Ricky's song, is open wide. For I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. And so as you take the time, and again, if you haven't done it this evening, you can certainly do it at any time. But it's a ritual. But what matters is what you're doing in your heart. Letting go of everything that does not serve you. And as we release and let go, then we are cleansed and we are prepared for a new expression, a new way of being. And so the newness, the affirmative way is we would write a letter. We affirm the truth. This was a releasing and letting go, and now we're prepared to affirm our heart's desires, our intentions. And remember, we give spirit room to work it out. We allow spirit to bring it to us in the divine way that is for us and at the right time. Spirit is always on time because it's only the now moment. And whenever it's the now moment for that thing to manifest, it will. But take a moment and write your letter to God. And what you can do is we've given you instructions online. Once they're written, you can bring them to the church, drop them off, and we will be mailing them back. We'll hold them in a sacred place, and we'll mail them back to you in about 6 months. Or if you choose not to bring it, take that letter to God and place it in your Bible or someplace sacred or on your altar in an envelope. And again, let it be there and rest there, giving it that divine time for spirit to do its mighty work. Some things may manifest by the time you open it, and other things may still be in process. But have faith that God is working it all out. And so you can write your letter to God. Now, let me say this. When you write your letter to God, address it to yourself. And you can put a stamp on it, or we'll put a stamp on it if you bring it here to the church. But address it to yourself so it can be returned to you. I always get such a big kick when people just hand them their letter to God and there's no address, and so we don't know where to send it. God knows, but if you're sending it here to the church, please do that. And in 6 months, we're going to mail it back to you. So we've released and we have affirmed. Let us now move into this wonderful sacred time, this time now to await the transition of a new year. So I'm going to invite you to just begin to breathe deeply as we enter into meditation. And we know that the new year shall come, but I invite you to close your eyes, to find that comfortable place within your heart and in your being, and breathe deeply and fully. And allow yourself to release and let go. Take a deep, deep breath and slowly release and let go. There's a song that says, I release and I let go. And Ricky Byers says, I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. For my eyes are open wide, my heart is open wide, because I'm only here for God. I am a divine vessel through which the Spirit of the living God moves and lives and has its being in and through and as me. So I say, here I am, Lord, use me. And we know anytime God begins to use us as a sacred vessel, we adopt and have a new nature, a new name, a new direction. So let us now just move into a time of silence as we await the dawning of a new day, the dawning of a new year, and the dawning of a new soul within our very own hearts. Rest in the stillness. Peace. Be still. Remember to listen for that word, that new name, that new direction. Listen. 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 And as we prepare for this new day, let us count it down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Happy New You! Happy New You! What a glorious moment it is! Happy New Year to you, to everyone that's here, to all of you out there. Happy, happy New Year! And we are so grateful for this new year that has dawned upon us. We would normally sing together, but perhaps, Richard, you'd like to play something, or let's hear our wonderful Richard Payne and the Richard Payne Trio. I believe that's what it was. I'm being flexible. That's what it says here, but I don't know. All right. That song. All right. yes. Thank you. That was wonderful. And see, he was flexible. I was singing that, and he was able to just come up and play. I'm only here for God. I am free in the Spirit. I hope you know you're free. Free to be who God created you to be. This is the time and this is the moment for us to live so fully and so freely. Why wait? There's no more waiting. Whatever it is you wanted to do, you've been called to do, now is the time. Do it. Be it. It's a precious moment. We want to take the time to thank you for spending your New Year's with us and to also always be such a bright light in our expression. We want to take a moment to thank you from the bottom of our heart, the middle and the top of the heart, for all that you are and have been to this ministry. Unity of Washington, D.C. is a beacon of light. We are a community of light bearers, and we are prepared to do our part. But thank you for the gifts that you so freely and lovingly share with this ministry. I am so blessed because each of you still remember, whether it's to send your offering in, because we still maintain this beautiful sanctuary. We still have our staff to run. We're still doing a full service of classes and workshops, all for you and all for the glory of God, putting our light out there. More than ever, people are seeking the truth. More than ever, people need a way station, a place to come and to be. And so even if it's virtual, we're out there for them. So thank you for sharing your gifts, for sending them in. You can go to our website and find ways to donate. You can come drop it off at the church, put it in the mail, snail mail. It doesn't matter. We're grateful. And I know that this will be a blessing for you. God will continue to bless you in this new year. Remember, whatever you're going to do and be, it's up to you in 2022. I say step into this new assignment. I hope you understand the assignment. In the meantime, Happy New Year, and abundant blessings. Thank you so much. And so it is, and so it is. Let's sing our closing song.